Your mother forgot where she parked the car again. Your father asked you the same question 3 times in 1 hour. You probably thought this was just normal aging, but what if I told you these moments could be early warning signs of something much more serious that doctors can actually help with if diagnosed early enough? Vascular dementia is the second most common type of dementia after Alzheimer's disease, affecting millions of people over 60. And what shocked me when researching this is that most people miss the earliest signs for months or even years before seeking medical help. By then, significant damage has already occurred. In this video, I will explain the 8 early warning signs of vascular dementia that everyone over 60 should know. The third sign is so subtle that family members living in the same house can completely miss it. But when you know what to look for, it becomes impossible to ignore. Before we begin, I must be very clear on one point. This video is for educational awareness only. If you or someone you love shows any of the signs below, you must speak with a doctor immediately. Only a medical professional can properly diagnose vascular dementia. These signs do not confirm anything by themselves, but they should prompt you to seek professional evaluation. Now let us dive into the signs that could save someone's cognitive function if caught early. Sign number 8, sudden difficulty with planning or organizing. This is not about occasionally forgetting an appointment or misplacing your keys. We are talking about a sudden change in someone's ability to plan sequential tasks they have done successfully for decades. Picture this. Your father has made his famous Sunday breakfast every week for 20 years. He knows the recipe by heart. Eggs, toast, bacon, coffee, always in the same order. Then one Sunday, you notice something strange. He is standing in the kitchen, looking confused. The eggs are burning while the toast sits cold. The coffee has not been started. He seems lost in a routine he could do with his eyes closed just months ago. This is what doctors call executive function decline, and it is often one of the earliest signs of vascular dementia. Here is why this happens. Vascular dementia occurs when blood flow to the brain becomes restricted, usually due to small strokes or damaged blood vessels. When these tiny strokes happen in areas of the brain responsible for planning and organization, the person suddenly loses abilities they had yesterday. The key word is sudden. Alzheimer's disease typically progresses gradually over many years. Vascular dementia often appears in noticeable steps. Someone functions normally, then experiences a small stroke, and suddenly their abilities drop to a new lower baseline. Research from the Journal of Neurology shows that executive function problems appear in approximately 60% of vascular dementia cases, often before memory issues become obvious. If you notice a loved one suddenly struggling with tasks they previously managed easily, do not wait. Document specific examples. Note when the change started, then schedule an appointment with their doctor as soon as possible. Early intervention can significantly slow the progression of vascular dementia. Sign number 7, increased confusion or disorientation at night. Doctors call this sundowning, and it is a powerful early indicator of vascular dementia that many people dismiss as simple tiredness. Here is what it actually looks like. Your mother seems perfectly fine all day, sharp, conversational, remembering details. But as evening approaches, something shifts. She becomes confused about what day it is. She cannot remember if she ate dinner. She might even forget where she is, or become convinced she needs to go somewhere urgently. This is not ordinary fatigue. It is a specific pattern of cognitive decline that intensifies in the evening hours. Research published in the American Journal of Geriatric Psychiatry found that sundowning affects up to 20% of people with dementia, and it often appears earlier in vascular dementia than in other forms. Why does this happen? Your brain requires consistent blood flow to function properly. In vascular dementia, damaged blood vessels cannot deliver adequate oxygen and nutrients to brain cells. As the day progresses and the body becomes naturally tired, the brain has even fewer resources available. The reduced lighting in evening also removes visual cues that help orient someone with early cognitive decline. If you notice this pattern, keep a diary for 2 weeks. Note the time of day confusion appears, what triggers it, and how long it lasts. This documentation helps doctors understand what is happening and make an accurate diagnosis. Sign number 3. Subtle changes in walking or balance. This is the sign that shocks people most because we do not associate movement problems with brain health. But here is the truth. How you walk reveals what is happening inside your brain. Vascular dementia does not just affect memory and thinking. It disrupts the brain regions that control movement and coordination. A groundbreaking study from the University of Toronto followed over 4,000 adults over age 65 for 5 years. They discovered something remarkable. Changes in walking speed and stride length predicted dementia diagnosis years before memory symptoms appeared. People who developed vascular dementia showed these movement changes an average of 3 years before diagnosis. The person begins taking shorter steps without realizing it. Their walking speed slows noticeably, especially when they need to think while walking. They might shuffle slightly, rather than lifting their feet clearly. They may hesitate before stepping off curbs or through doorways. Their balance becomes less steady, particularly when turning or changing direction. What makes this sign so easy to miss is that families often attribute these changes to normal aging or arthritis. But when walking changes appear alongside any other cognitive symptoms, it demands immediate medical evaluation. If you notice walking changes in someone over 60, pay attention to whether they have more trouble walking when distracted or talking. Schedule a complete medical evaluation that includes both cognitive testing and neurological examination. Sign number 6. Trouble finding common words during conversation. Everyone occasionally searches for a word, but there is a specific pattern of word-finding difficulty that signals vascular dementia. The person starts a sentence clearly, then suddenly stops mid-thought. They know what they want to say. The concept is clear in their mind, but the specific word has vanished. They might substitute a related word, calling a fork a spoon, referring to a car as a truck, or they describe the object rather than naming it. Instead of saying refrigerator, they say the cold food box. This happens multiple times during a single conversation. A study in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease found that word-finding problems appear in approximately 50% of vascular dementia cases within the first year of onset. In vascular dementia, word retrieval problems appear more suddenly and vary significantly day to day. One day, the person speaks normally. The next day, they struggle with basic vocabulary. What families often miss is the frustration this causes. The person knows their language ability has changed. They feel embarrassed when words disappear mid-sentence. If you notice this pattern, do not finish sentences for them. Give them time to find words themselves, but document how often this happens and schedule a medical evaluation. Sign number 5. Difficulty following conversations or television plots. Your father sits watching his favorite TV show, the same program he has followed for years. Suddenly he asks you what is happening, who that character is, or why they are doing something. You explain, and 5 minutes later he asks again. This is not about hearing problems. It is about processing and tracking information. When vascular dementia begins, the brain struggles to hold multiple pieces of information simultaneously and connect them into coherent understanding. Research from the Alzheimer's Association indicates that approximately 65% of people with vascular dementia experience difficulty following complex conversations or storylines early in the disease progression. The problem relates to something called working memory. When you follow a conversation, your brain must remember what was said 10 seconds ago, connect it to what is being said now, and anticipate where the conversation is going. Vascular dementia damages this system. Small strokes in the frontal lobe disrupt working memory circuits. The person hears the words clearly but cannot hold them in mind long enough to process their meaning within context. Family gatherings become overwhelming. Multiple people talking, topics changing quickly, background noise competing for attention. Someone with early vascular dementia cannot filter or organize all this incoming information. They withdraw from conversations they previously enjoyed. What makes this particularly concerning is that families often misinterpret this withdrawal. They think their loved one is becoming antisocial, depressed, or simply losing interest in activities. If you notice someone struggling to follow conversations they previously handled easily, create a calm environment for important discussions. Reduce background noise. Speak one person at a time. Keep topics simple and clear, but most importantly, schedule a cognitive evaluation. Sign number 4. Problems with depth perception and spatial relationships. This sign reveals itself in surprising ways that seem unrelated to dementia. The person suddenly has trouble judging distances. They reach for a cup, but their hand stops short or overshoots. They misjudge the height of a curb and stumble. Parking becomes difficult because they cannot accurately judge how far they are from other cars. Stairs become dangerous because each step looks the same height, making it hard to judge where to place their foot. These are not vision problems in the traditional sense. Their eyes see clearly. The problem is in how the brain interprets and processes what the eyes report. Vascular dementia damages areas of the brain responsible for spatial processing. Research published in Neurology Journal found that visual spatial problems appear in approximately 40% of vascular dementia patients, often before obvious memory symptoms. These problems significantly increase fall risk and make activities like driving extremely dangerous. What makes this sign particularly dangerous is that the person often does not recognize their impairment. Their brain is not providing feedback that something is wrong. This creates a serious safety risk. Family members need to watch for specific warning signs. Does your loved one suddenly have more minor accidents? Bumping into door frames they previously cleared easily, spilling drinks when setting them down, having trouble threading a needle, or completing puzzles they previously enjoyed? If caught early, doctors can address underlying vascular problems and potentially prevent further deterioration. They can also implement safety measures to prevent falls and other accidents. Sign number 2. sudden emotional changes, or loss of emotional control. Your normally calm, collected mother suddenly bursts into tears during a TV commercial. Your father, who rarely showed frustration, now becomes angry over minor inconveniences. These dramatic emotional changes are not personality flaws or simply getting older. They are neurological symptoms of vascular dementia. When small strokes damage brain regions responsible for emotional regulation, the person loses their ability to moderate emotional responses. What would have been mild irritation becomes explosive anger. A touching moment triggers overwhelming sadness. They might laugh inappropriately at serious news or show no emotion during genuinely sad situations. Research shows it affects up to 50% of people with vascular dementia at some point during the disease. Here is what makes this particularly difficult for families. These emotional outbursts often feel personal. When someone you love suddenly snaps at you or cries uncontrollably, it is natural to take it personally or feel hurt. But these responses are not about you. They are symptoms of brain damage that the person cannot control. A study in the International Journal of Geriatric Psychiatry found that emotional changes often appear 6 to 12 months before families seek medical help. Why? Because families interpret these changes as stress, depression, or relationship problems. What should you watch for specifically? Rapid mood swings that seem disproportionate to the situation. Crying or laughing that continues longer than makes sense. Sudden anger that appears out of nowhere and disappears just as quickly. Complete lack of emotional response to situations that should trigger feelings. If these emotional changes appear alongside any other symptoms we have discussed, seek medical evaluation immediately. Finally, we arrive at the earliest sign of all, the one that appears so subtly that almost no one recognizes it as concerning. Sign number 1. Sudden urinary urgency or frequency without infection. This sign shocks people because we do not associate bladder control with brain function, but the connection is direct and important. When vascular dementia begins affecting the brain regions that control bladder signals, one of the earliest symptoms is sudden urinary urgency. The person feels a sudden, overwhelming need to urinate with little warning. They might not make it to the bathroom in time, leading to accidents. This happens even though medical tests show no urinary tract infection, enlarged prostate, or other physical bladder problems. Research from the Journal of the American Geriatric Society found that urinary symptoms appear in up to 30% of vascular dementia patients early in the disease, often before cognitive symptoms become obvious to family members. Why does this happen? The frontal lobe of your brain regulates bladder control. Small strokes in these regions disrupt the signals between brain and bladder. The bladder might send urgency signals when it is not actually full, or the brain might not recognize bladder signals until the last moment. What makes this particularly significant is that doctors often miss the connection. Someone reports urinary urgency, gets tested for infection, tests come back negative, and everyone assumes it is just aging. No one considers that it might be an early neurological sign of vascular dementia. If you or a loved one suddenly develops urinary urgency or frequency that cannot be explained by infection or other urological problems, especially if accompanied by any other symptoms we have discussed, insist on a complete neurological evaluation, including cognitive testing. This combination of symptoms strongly suggests vascular changes affecting brain function. What you must do next. If you recognize multiple signs in yourself or someone you love, do not panic. but do not delay either. Here is exactly what to do. First, document everything. Write down specific examples of each symptom you have noticed. When did it start? How often does it happen? What makes it better or worse? This documentation helps doctors understand the pattern and severity of symptoms. Second, schedule an appointment with a primary care doctor immediately. Do not wait for symptoms to worsen. Early intervention makes a significant difference in vascular dementia outcomes. Bring your documentation to the appointment. Third, request a complete evaluation, including cognitive testing, brain imaging, and vascular health assessment. Do not let doctors dismiss symptoms as normal aging. Advocate firmly for thorough investigation. Fourth, while waiting for your appointment, focus on vascular health. Control blood pressure, manage diabetes, stop smoking, eat heart-healthy foods, exercise regularly. These actions improve brain blood flow and may slow or prevent further damage. Remember, vascular dementia differs from Alzheimer's disease in one critical way. The underlying cause is vascular, meaning blood vessel problems. When doctors address these vascular issues early, they can often prevent or significantly slow cognitive decline. That is why recognizing these early signs matters so much. Having one or two of these signs does not necessarily mean vascular dementia. Many conditions cause similar symptoms. Only proper medical evaluation can determine what is actually happening. But recognizing these warning signs and seeking evaluation early could literally save someone's cognitive function and quality of life. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 8 signs surprised you most? Have you noticed any of these changes in yourself or someone you love? What questions do you have about vascular dementia? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Tell me your age, what country and city you are watching from, and your experience with these symptoms. Your insights might help someone else recognize important warning signs early. If this information helped you understand vascular dementia better, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. We create evidence-based health content specifically for people over 60 and their families. Share this video with anyone who needs this information. Early recognition of these signs can change someone's entire trajectory with this disease. Remember, knowledge is power, but only when you act on it. If you notice multiple signs, schedule a doctor appointment today. Your brain health is worth protecting.